not submitting anything as a matter of compliance. We are not members of the ICC anymore. We have withdrawn from the Rome Statute, and that there is no compulsory process for them to go into the country and start investigating anything. We are currently investigating these crimes. Our judicial system is working.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. The big story tonight.
The Justice Department says it will submit a case update to the International Criminal Court investigation into the Duterte administration's war on drugs. During a forum on Wednesday, Justice Secretary Boying Remulla says they will provide the International Tribunal a case update out of friendship and respect. Remulla adds that the wheels of justice are moving as they continue to take action on the reported drug war killings.
Recall that the ICC gave the Philippines until September 8 to provide any observations on the planned reopening of the probe. This comes after ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan requested to resume the investigation into the war on drugs that was carried out under the administration of then-President Rodrigo Duterte.
As I said before, we are doing everything as a matter of comity, friendship and respect among nations and multilateral agencies. We are not submitting anything as a matter of compliance. And we are not members of the ICC anymore. We have withdrawn from the Rome Statute, and that there is no compulsory process for them to go into the country and start investigating anything.
Meanwhile, the Philippine government has declared a war against online sexual abuse and exploitation of children. Here's what we know. Citing the findings of various international agencies, Justice Secretary Boying Remulla says the Philippines has become a favorite place of abusers, with incidents of online exploitation reported across all regions. According to a 2016 study by UNICEF, 8 out of 10 Filipino children are vulnerable to becoming victims of online sexual abuse. The COVID-19 pandemic has also posed heightened risks to minors who are forced to stay at home with family members who may be abusers. The DOJ earlier reported that cases of OSEC rose by 264% during the imposition of the enhanced community quarantine from March to May 2020 as compared to the same period in 2019. Data shared by Interior Secretary Ben-Hur Abalos showed that from 2017 to July this year, authorities have conducted 227 operations against the online sexual abuse of children, which led to the filing of 198 cases. 67 people have been convicted of the crime, while 41 cases are still under investigation. With this, the DOJ, along with other concerned government agencies, have joined forces to ensure that online sexual abuse and child exploitation will be addressed in the country.
So matagal na itong problema, hindi lang na-address because we are so busy with other problems. This administration is keen and very serious in stopping this. We are declaring war against this, and this is the time.
And here to discuss the country's plan on the ICC probe, we have with us Justice Secretary Boying Remulla. He's joining us via Zoom. Good evening and welcome to the big story, Secretary.
Good evening, Ed, and good evening, Gretchen, and good evening to everybody.
Thank you, sir, for joining us tonight. Sir, beginning with the ICC probe, you have said nga that we are going to cooperate not out of compliance but because of international friendship. Can we just qualify that? To what degree of cooperation are you looking at in terms of the data you intend to share? Are you just going to give observations of the Philippine government, or are you going to share other data that they may ask for in terms, for example, of cases and case details?
Well, Ed, everything is still being worked out now, especially the case build-up of many of the cases. But whatever available data we have, we are sending it now to Solicitor General Guevara for his perusal so that he can prepare whatever submission he wants to give to the members of the court or to the people behind the court. Because, as I said earlier, as I've said in previous discussions, we are not doing this out of compliance, but out of comity, as we are not members of the ICC anymore. So, given that, we still want to give them the information that they may wish to seek. But Anyway, our department is busy collating the data needed, and of course, still gathering evidence through our own means available, the means available to us, to the NBI, and to the other informers that we may have who can give us the facts behind the cases. We are still in the process of looking for eyewitnesses, because it's the hardest thing to do right now is to prove a case without any witness. That is a basic tenet of evidence, that you have to prove a case beyond reasonable doubt to be able to put somebody in jail, to hold anyone responsible or accountable. So we will not stop doing this job. We will be on the lookout for all of the people who may wish to help us get available evidence and narratives behind what happened in many of these cases, especially what we call the EJ case, whether it's law enforcement agents involved, whether it's leftist elements or communist elements or private armed groups. We really don't care as long as we know the truth behind these incidents.
Secretary, your reaction to ICC Prosecutor Karim Khan's statement that there have been no genuine investigations and no indication that domestic authorities are investigating alleged systematic nature of these and other killings, no probe on any individual ordering, planning, or instigating the EJ case?
I am not answerable to Mr. Khan. I am answerable to my people. I am answerable to the Filipino people. He may wish to say what he wishes to say, but whatever he has on hand sounds like propaganda for people who do not like our politics.
Well, sir, if we do share any data with the ICC, that's coming from our end. But what if the ICC still insists on pushing through with an on-site investigation in the Philippines, just in case it does? If they intend or they express their intentions to come and visit and to conduct an on-site investigation here, will they be welcome? Will they be allowed?
What law will they use to investigate? What compulsory process will they use to get witnesses to move forward? I don't see the point. They don't have any jurisdiction in our country. When you want to investigate, you have to have compulsory process. You have to have the laws by which you operate. When there are no laws stated, if it's under the laws of the Philippines, they will have to cooperate with us or us cooperate with them. But because we are not members of the ICC, they will have to respect that.
But sir, at the very least, would they be allowed to visit, with or without the presumption that they will conduct an investigation here formally? Will they be allowed to visit as members of the ICC?
As members of the ICC, I don't see a formal way to do it. We may welcome them to a chat, or maybe we can talk to them. But for them to assert power over us is not negotiable.
All right, we'll continue our discussion with Justice Secretary Boying Remulla right after the break. Keep it here on One News.
Do you hate Facebook but like your friends? If you live in Europe, your life might be about to get a whole lot easier. Starting in 2024, the European Union is going to require big tech companies like Meta and Apple to make it possible to send messages between their messaging apps. That might let an iMessage user chat with a WhatsApp account. The technical name for this is interoperability, and it's part of the EU's Digital Markets Act, legislation intended at loosening big tech's grip on the digital market. The EU's thinking is that messaging locks users into the tech giants' platforms because leaving WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger means losing the ability to communicate with all your friends. But thanks to the EU, you'll be able to send a message from a smaller competitor like Viber to someone using iMessage. And if every company signs on, then you might be able to communicate with everyone using just a single messaging app. This change clearly would make life easier for consumers, but it's quite controversial. Some technologists think it could break end-to-end encryption or stifle the innovation that makes messaging platforms fun. And if smaller companies like Signal or even the big tech companies decide they don't want to use these new technical standards to connect their massive messaging platforms, some argue the law is completely useless. It will take several years before the EU's rules go into effect, but if this new interoperability requirement works, it could have a huge impact on big tech's behavior and the way you communicate. And of course, where the EU leads in terms of tech regulation, the US often follows.
从毕业那一刻，毕业之前还会谈梦想，谈什么，就是规划自己的未来。但从出来社会的那一刻，找工作的那一刻，你发现你的就是一个搅碎机，把你的未来已经搅碎了。你能不能重组，你不知道呀。
For decades, having a university degree in China has largely been a surefire path to higher earnings. But that may be changing. The country's COVID-0 policy, combined with a crackdown on some private enterprises, has pushed youth unemployment to 20%. That leaves an estimated 15 million Chinese between the ages of 16 to 24 out of work. Among those affected is Lu Chen. She struggled to find a job despite a new master's degree.
但是在毕业的时候，就其实已经之前联系好的公司，就突然就说我们可能缩招了，就这种情况，就可能招不了了。然后其实以前就是也是出现过这样的情况，就是已经有2家这样跟我说的。
然后他们 HR 就是说，就是薪资还有浮动空间吗？我说没有。就是其实我觉得8000，就税前8000的话，应该也。
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee has begun its hybrid hearing into the Education Department's procurement of allegedly outdated and overpriced laptops. Committee Chairman Senator Francis Tolentino says they will start the probe with the pre-bid phase of the procurement deal. Former PSDBM head Lord Christopher Lau asked to be excused from the inquiry because he says he is not the PSDBM's executive director during the time the laptops were procured for the DepEd. Tolentino, however, says they have documents where Lau allegedly signed some of the procurement deals. Lau also sent a letter to Tolentino asking him to lift the immigration lookout bulletin issued by the Justice Department as a result of the Senate investigation on the Farmally case. The request has yet to be tackled by the Blue Ribbon Committee. Justice Secretary Remulla is open to the removal of the Immigration Bureau from the jurisdiction of the DOJ. Remulla explains immigration is a separate department in other countries. He adds that immigration officials in the Philippines are falling behind in terms of salaries compared to their international counterparts. That's why Remulla believes it's time to modernize and upgrade the BI. But the former lawmaker admits it would be difficult to separate the Bureau from the DOJ due to their quote, intimate relationship. For News 5, Camille Samonte, We Are One News.
And still with us tonight is Justice Secretary Boying Remulla. Sir, thank you for staying with us.
Yes, Ed.
Yes, sir. Sir, we understand you're also meeting with Senator Markey, and I suppose one of the things that you that he intends to discuss with you is the issue of human rights. From your end, sir, what you intend to discuss with him and what you expect him to bring up?
Actually, tapos na yung meeting, Ed. We met already a week ago. He went to my office, and we had a good discussion about human rights. And after that, I went to Malacanang with him to meet with the president. So we had a good discussion that day, and things turned out well.
Were there anything? Were there any things that he pushed for in particular? Because we do remember that there were earlier moves in Congress, in the U.S. Congress, to place human rights issues as a precondition to further assistance for the Philippine government.
Well, that was mentioned to me by the ambassador, Mary Kay Clarkson. And I just told her that if they choose to withhold their funding from us, so be it, because our programs will continue, and we can still invite them as observers. But then she decided to be more friendly after that, because, we can stand on our own 2 feet. We do not need these fundings that they want, that they're dangling over us. We will survive without it. But just the same, if they want to help us, their help is welcome. But please don't, we will not allow ourselves to be bullied into a corner by these people.
Secretary, you called for the separation of the DOJ and the Bureau of Immigration, and you also mentioned that the 1939 our immigration law currently is very obsolete. What would you say would be the weaknesses and loopholes that you see in our current immigration laws that need to be addressed?
Well, first of all, I'd like to clarify that I never asked that immigration be separated from the Department of Justice. It's just that when I asked that question, if it was possible, I said, of course it's possible, because in other countries, it is a major department. Immigration has become a major department in many countries, especially because of border control. When it comes to the law itself, it's a 1939 law, and even if you look at the literature or the accompanying drawings that go with it, it's just a ship bringing passengers to the country that is pictured there. There's not even air travel during that time. So the organization of the Immigration Bureau is not as modern as it should be. It was not designed to carry or to process millions of passengers a year. The pay scale of our people is still way below even the national average, and of course way below world standard. And even the way that we are organized has to be more sophisticated, given the fact that this is already the 21st century, and the law was written 90 or so years ago. So it's about time that we improved our immigration law. And in fact, we held a hearing yesterday with the House of Representatives Committee on Justice, and this was discussed already. And we can fast track this when, as I requested for a technical working group to be able to reconcile the different bills passed, filed before the committee, and of course to put the inputs of the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Immigration into the law, into the bill that we will hope will become a law very soon.
Secretary, recently meron po nag-viral na photo nung Iloilo District Jail, no? Yung mga preso po natin, mga PDLs natin, nasa bubong at sinasabing gutom na sila. Have you looked into this? And is it a matter of jail congestion? And what or how does the proposed Alcatraz-like jail play into our jail system right now?
Let me clarify it first, Gretchen. What was pictured in Iloilo is a BJMP facility or a local jail. What we have in the Department of Justice is the Bureau of Corrections for those who have been sentenced by law to suffer imprisonment or deprivation of liberty. And the BJMP is a detention facility that is under the auspices of the Department of Interior and Jail, BJMP, Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. So that's under the DILG. But we are concerned about these people because they are now deprived of liberty because there are cases against them. So it's really a sad state right now. I've met with the PAO, the Public Attorney's Office, through the head attorney, Priscilla Acosta, and I've met with the Bureau, the Board of Pardons and Parole and Probation Administration, so we can do a survey and decongest our jails. And how can this be done? There is already a Supreme Court decision which allows the jailers themselves, or even us, to recommend to the jail the release of people who should be released already. Let's say for people who are under detention but have already served their full possible sentence, they have to be released immediately. There are many ways to decongest the jail, and we are doing everything now. We have started mobilizing our resources, especially our human resources, to do this.
All right, maraming salamat po. We'll continue the conversation later on the chiefs. Maraming salamat, Justice Secretary Boying Remulla.
We will continue, or still to come, we will talk about the SBP's preparations for the country's FIBA World Cup hosting next year. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here in One News.
The number of days that you could have a catastrophic fire back in the day might have been 2 or 3. Climate change comes along, and suddenly things begin to change. Now it could be 40 or 50 or 60 or 80 days a year where the wrong start in the wrong place creates a catastrophic result. Our primary goal is to contain the fire, to slow its spread and its intensity, and have a successful initial attack and a successful containment on the ground. The evolution of air tanker fleets has been driven by two primary things: the availability of aircraft, and it's been driven by the availability of fuel. We're transitioning from our Convairs and our Electras to our RJ85s and our Q400s that represent a significant change in design standard. So our role and our staff of engineers' role is to put systems in the aircraft to manage those additional stresses to make sure that the aircraft can safely conduct an aerial firefighting mission within the capabilities of the airframe's design. Along with making sure your fleet is modern, it's designed to the highest engineering standards, agencies are also beginning to look at the entire supply chain. And speed is critical. Decisions need to be made in minutes, from the time a fire is detected till the time a resourcing decision is made. That's absolutely key in any response, in any approach to dealing with climate change. We've developed a host of aircraft that we believe provides a balance. There's an amphibious air tanker, which is an aircraft that skim water across the top of a lake, fill up their tanks, normally inject some sort of a surfactant into the water and deliver it to the fire. Then there's the land-based air tanker, typically a retrofitted commercial aviation aircraft that lands at a tanker base to be loaded with retardant and then flies to the fire. Everything from detection to report to the requesting of the resource, the response of the resource, the balance of the fleet that they're responding to the fire, and then the tactics that occur over the fire has to be looked.
You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. FIBA has released its Gilas Pilipinas 12-man lineup for the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers game against Lebanon. The roster is led by NBA guard Jordan Clarkson and 7'3" big man Kai Soto. PBA players Scotty Thompson, Japet Aguilar, Jamie Malonzo, Calvin Oftana, and Chris Newsome also made the lineup. And completing that team are B-League players Bobby Ray Parks, Dwight Ramos, 30 and Kiefer Ravenna, as well as UP standout Carl Tamayo. Roosevelt Adams, however, was out from the list, despite earlier joining the 13-man pool initially released by the SBP. The game against Lebanon will take place tomorrow or later at 2 a.m. Manila time.
And to give us his insights about the 12-man Gilas lineup set to compete against Lebanon, joining us live in the studio is PBA champion and basketball analyst Willy Wilson. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Chiefs.
Welcome to the show. The Big Story.
Sorry, wrong program. That follows in a few minutes. But anyway, let's start off with this. What do you think are our chances against Lebanon?
I think we have really, really good chances against Lebanon. As you see, the lineup formation for this game as compared to the previous game, vastly different. We're a lot faster. We're a lot bigger. And also, we have a lot more experience. So as you've seen them, the first time we played them back in July, it was a very, very young team, backstopped by Ray Parks and the Ravenna brothers. Now, it's backstopped mainly by PBA veterans and also the highly anticipated NBA player Jordan Clarkson and Kai Soto.
What do you think about this team not having much practice at all? I mean, we have Jordan Clarkson, we have Kai Soto on the team, but they also got recently together. So the lack of practice can play into that game against Lebanon.
Oh, definitely. That's a very, very fair assessment. But that is also why you get pros. When you consider the systems and the coaches that a lot of these players have played for, they're very, very used to playing with different types of players and in different types of systems. So what I'm saying is that they're versatile players and they're very, very adaptable to whatever situation they're playing in, whatever teammates they're playing with.
No Roosevelt Adams in the lineup, despite him being the 2019 PBA draft pick. So what do you think Coach Schott chose to cut him out from this 12-man pool?
Well, I think he's pretty redundant. As you see with the lineup now, you have a Jordan Clarkson, NBA vet, very, very athletic player. And then you have a Jamie Malonzo, 6'6", super athlete. Our issues versus Lebanon in the first game was their outside shooting. They're a very, very, very good shooting team. They have a stretch big. They're big. They go Arledge, 6'9". They have Haydar, he's about 6'9". Gyok Chan is 6'9", and he's their stretch big. So what they do is they spread you out. They go ball screen with Arak G, and they just break you down off the dribble. Now we have all of these athletes on the team. Chris Newsom is there to chase these shooters around, cut off their three-point shooting, and I think having Roosevelt Adams would have just been redundant with what's already there.
How do you compare the potential dynamics of this team with the previous team?
Well, as I said earlier, they have a lot more experience and they're a lot bigger. The previous team had Gio Chu, which went 6'9". He was their biggest player. Now you have the 7'3", Kai Soto, fresh from his stint in Australia, with lots and lots of experience to bring to the team. Very, very excited to play for the national team and against Lebanon. And then Japeth Aguilar, 6'9". So they're a lot bigger. They don't have a wealth of bigs on there, but what they're making up for that lack of height is speed and athleticism with Chris Newsom, Jamie Malonzo. Obviously, you have the Ravenna brothers there, and Jordan Clarkson.
Do you think that's going to be the story of this Gilas Pilipinas team? I mean, leading to the FIBA World Cup next year, should we bank on speed and agility instead of height? Because that's what we've been lacking for the past games. And what do you think of the whole pool, the national team pool, where we already getting players from different stakeholders?
Well, I think with regards to going speed versus height, I think maybe moving forward, you add in a Junmar Fajardo. But then if God willing, if Kai Soto's available, you have Kai Soto, 7'3". He would be one of the biggest players internationally. So I don't think height would be an issue with Kai, Japeth, and Junmar. Maybe a Greg Slaughter might be available. So that's three players that are, international by international standards, very, very tall. What I feel we are lacking in is that athleticism and that speed, which now we have made up for with the addition of Jordan Clarkson. Jamie Malonzo, very, very athletic player. As you see, his PBA highlights are just full of amazing highlight reel dunks, 6'6". What teams are going to do is they're either going to beat you up inside or they're going to beat you up outside with their speed. I feel now we have the height to match with teams inside, and we have the speed and athleticism to match up with teams on the perimeter.
Okay, just as a final note, before the game later on, the Filipino basketball fans haven't cut this team any slack when it comes to, losing or with whatever lineup. How do you feel about this lineup going into Lebanon? And do you feel excited about the prospects, about where the Gilas program is heading?
I'm definitely excited about where the Gilas program is heading. All they need is continuity. You have no control over whether players are available or not. So for these players answering the call, being available for Gilas, time in, time again, I have nothing but admiration for the players, for the coaches, for Coach Schott, for him to step up to the plate, answer the call, and to coach this team. He's in the middle of a finals series right now, and he's answering the call for flag and for country.
Well, it seems he has a lot of things to manage, not just inside the court, but a lot of political will as well to get players to stay in the team. We're looking forward to the first game of Jordan Clarkson with this lineup. Maraming salamat, PBA champion basketball analyst Willy Wilson.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analysis. I'm Ed Lingao.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Ho. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.